Yeah, boy, it's July 29th, and it's episode 83, and this is the Fantasy Football Auctioneer. I'm your host, Uncle Buckets. The Fantasy Football Auctioneer is the official podcast of the fantasyfootballauction.com, the internet's only website. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/fantasyfootballauctioneer, or find us on Twitter and Instagram. We are at Fantasy Auction. We've got a great show for you tonight. Tonight we're going to open up the buy and sell because training camps are open. So we're going to go through some fantasy news buy or sell. Then we're going to take a look at our mock draft from Friday night and talk about our strategies and what we liked and what we didn't like. And then we're going to end it off with Slim going through the fan draft that he went through. I think it was just yesterday. Anyways, we'll break down his team and how that fan draft went. So that's tonight's show. But of course, our experts, they're always here. He's fresh off drafting with fans and listeners of this very podcast. Slim, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. It was actually a really fun draft. Probably one of the more fun ones that I've done this year, believe it or not. Very different as far as just how the nominations went down. Lots of good conversation on the chat board. Yeah, some guy messed up spaghetti. He was trying to draft while cooking his kid's spaghetti supper, and our wives were getting upset. And some guy, it was his first year anniversary, and he chose to draft.
Yes.
Yeah, no kidding. He chose to draft rather than take his wife out for dinner or something at a decent time. So they went, I think, afterwards, but I don't know. It was pretty good.
We need to keep a list of this, eh? We got to keep a list of this. Guy pees in a pop bottle during one of our drafts. Yeah. Screw up spaghetti, first anniversary. Let's make sure we keep a list of this because it's pretty good. All just to be in our free fan league. Pretty good.
Hey, it's not even that. It's just to draft. This is what I like. This just shows the dedication of auction drafters out there.
Yeah, that's wicked. I love it. All right, and today he was making his tractor sexy. Hey, Blister, catch anything from that tractor seat?
No, nothing at all. Just some UV rays. But put a little time on the farm. Time on the farm today.
Ask him again in 7 to 10 days. We'll see.
It was too easy, Blister. I just had to because I knew it was going to set up for the perfect soundbite.
Well,
so
make sure you get the soundbite in there.
And this is how we're going to get the _Zoobs from Sportsfeld involved. A little bit more Seinfeld quotes, and we'll get them in.
Well, he'd be more involved in the Zoobs that we know right now in fantasy football.
You can talk about him all you want. He's not listening.
Too bad. Too Samer. He doesn't have Wi-Fi.
Put the 3-finger thumb down and drive to a high point and get some cell service.
For Christ's sakes.
Little different than the 3-finger Neapolitan ice cream. Oh.
Yes.
Sorry. I'm sorry. That was a shout out for Brillo, even though he's probably not listening.
He won't listen either.
Anyways, guys, if you're ready, then I'm ready. Let's cock the hammer. It's time for action. All right, so like I said, we got a good show. We're actually going to start off by answering a couple of listener questions. Then we're going to break down some fantasy football news, buy or sell. We're going to talk about our mock draft from Friday night, and then Slim's going to break down his fan draft, more than just like a guy got divorced on his first anniversary because he was drafting with us. So let's start off with listener question, guys. We just had a Twitter question come in really quick from @MCanfieldFortF, unique Twitter handle there. Anyways, his question is, guys, who are some good risk-reward receivers that he should target during free agency if he's unhappy with the ones that he drafted this year? Actually, I recognize the Twitter handle. That's Mike, I think, from our listener draft guys. So anyways, don't give him too much help because I'm playing against him. Anyways, Slim, go ahead.
Well, I mean, let's face it, you're not going to get – there might be one and, there's for every Keenan Allen there's 1,000 guys that are – you're going to use for 2 weeks and then drop. But I'm not in any rush right now. Potentially, I'm kind of just paying attention to what's going to happen in some preseason games, see who's maybe going to, take this slot receiver position on a certain team, or wait for injuries to happen, which they're going to happen. A couple guys, someone I'm watching maybe would be some like Miles Austin. Somebody has to catch passes in Cleveland right now. Just on name and I guess past performance alone, he's kind of the leading candidate. He is often going undrafted, and for good reason. He's hasn't been on the field very much the last couple of years, but right now he might be the best they have in Cleveland. Somebody else I think is going to be poised for a decent year this year is Rod Streeter. Again, it's kind of a mess there.
I drafted him last year, I think.
Who's going to a year early, buddy. A year early.
Hey, dynasty, baby.
But somebody has to do something there in Oakland. Whether it's Schaub or Carr under center, it seems like they're kind of starting to, build a few things there. And believe me, I don't think their offense will be prolific, and they have a lot of bodies there. James Jones, Denarius Moore is fighting. Andre Holmes is a guy who's another popular breakout, actually.
Yeah.
But to me, those two guys, they have the youth, they got the size, they got the physical tools to be able to emerge. Actually, both Streeter and Holmes. And someone like Doug Baldwin's intriguing to me too. Golden Tate's gone, and someone has to fill that wide receiver too. And a lot of the times he's going undrafted. I know Paul Richardson's looks pretty good, but I think Doug Baldwin's a sneaky guy to go for maybe about 700 yards and who knows, 5 to 7 touchdowns this year if things go right.
So just so you know, I read on a competitor's site just listing some of the news. I think it was CBS. They mentioned that Matt Schaub's got his mojo back, I think was the quote. So
there's a lot of tires that get pumped at this time of the year in train. Every coach thinks that everybody on the team is looking better than last year. So you have to take all that with a grain of salt. Let's
Blister, any waiver wire free agent guys? High risk reward.
Yeah, I mean it's hard for me to say because I don't know who is in his league on the waiver wire right now. I looked through a draft I was recently in, and I suggested, a guy like Robert Woods was still on the waiver wire from Buffalo. I think he's going to see a second-year receiver. I think he's going to see a lot more prominent in that offense this year. But again, it's hard to say. I mean, if you drafted your team already, a lot of stuff's going to happen between now and that opening kickoff, and there's going to be a lot of injuries. And honestly, even the team owners themselves wouldn't know what to do right now if, if their number 1 or number 2 receiver got hurt. They don't have they'd be taking the next month to figure that out. So I think I wouldn't make any drastic moves at this time. You drafted your team, unless a guy's already hurt. I would stick to what you have until you see something happen during training camp. But for the most part, the guys that are in the waiver wire, you're probably looking at no better than a wide receiver 3 for their particular team. And so there's probably not much chance of picking them up now that, it's a real stab in the dark. So I'd stay put and see how things unfold in training camp.
All right. There you go, at M Canfield Ford F. Just some strategy ideas as far as waiver wire receivers go. Remember, you can always ask us questions all throughout the week. It doesn't have to be just before the podcast goes on. You can email us at fantasyauctioneer@, what is it? Come on, football auction. Football auctioneer. What's that?
Sorry. Yep, go.
I got 100 things in my head.
Twitter.
Anyways, tweeting us is the easiest way, at Fantasy Auction. We've actually had a lot of action on the Facebook page lately as well. We had a listener drop a question on there. All 3 of us answered it within the hour. So you can do that too. It's facebook.com/fantasyfootballauctioneer. So lots of different ways you can get a hold of us, ask us questions. We're answering questions. Slim says, it's about a handful a day right now he's cranking out. So ask us questions. Usually, 2 or all 3 of us are answering it right away. So search us out that way. Anyways, let's get on to the meat of the podcast, guys. Training camp has started, so that means some of our regular segments from last year must start as well. So let's get into the first installment of the Fantasy News Buy or Sell. All right. So in the Buy or Sell, I'll read a news headline that has some sort of fantasy implications, and I asked one of our experts whether they're buying or selling, what's going on with that particular news item. So the first one here, and it's been a big one lately, Marshawn Lynch and the holdout. So the headline is, Pete Carroll hopes Marshawn Lynch will, quote, figure it out. So according to the Seattle Times, Pete Carroll has mentioned Marshawn Lynch as saying, I love this kid, and I hope that he'll figure it out and we'll make sense of it and we'll come to a resolution somewhere. We know that Lynch can be fined up to $30,000 a day that he misses camp. So he's holding out right now, Slim. Question is, buy or sell? Beast mode now drops a tier in your RB rankings.
Well, I just updated them late last night, actually, for the upcoming update of the draft kit that'll be sent out on August 1st. And I dropped him from Tier 2 to Tier 3. He's right now at the top of Tier 3. So he's my 7th running back. He only dropped a couple spots. I'm still not sold that this holdout will, spill over into the season or anything. I don't think that it's a big deal if he misses preseason games. He knows the playbook. Nothing's really going to change there. So, all it's going to do, I think a lot of this is actually maybe him just trying to minimize potential injury so he can cash in maybe after the season. But who knows? I hate guys that do this, that wait until training camp to really start trying to negotiate a new contract. I feel like you had all off season to try and do that and make your point. And I get that this is some of the only leverage that some players have, but there comes a time where it's time to just get out in the field and play ball. You missed your opportunity to kind of get that contract, so get out there, show what you can do, and then hopefully after the season you can cash in again. But right now I'm not that worried. In the last draft I did, and actually the fan draft, he went for $43, and it was interesting. He was thrown out very early, and I think it caught a lot of people off guard, and people maybe weren't sure what to do with him at that time. Yeah. I know I wasn't bidding. And he ended up, like I said, going for $43, which is a little bit cheaper than normal. I thought he was going to go for much less. He was stuck in the mid-20s for a long time, and it was very slow there, and then it kind of picked up again. But I think once maybe some people talked themselves into it or figured out what they wanted to do. So, yeah, I think obviously as this drags on, his price is going to drop, and I think you have to drop him down as well.
He was first out in our mock draft on Friday as well, and I think he went for well over 50, if I remember. It was I was surprised he was one of the higher running backs actually still. So I think Blister made a comment. Somebody doesn't have any internet service or something along that line.
Yeah,
like, why would he be drafting that guy? But anyways, good thing. All right, so I'm going to take it then. We forget how this goes. The question is, do you buy or sell that you'll be dropping mid-tier? So your answer would be, I'm buying that he would drop a tier.
I buy it, yes. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Just,
it's been a while. Shake the rust on here.
That's all right. It's all right. It's training camp for us too, guys. It's training camp for us too. All right.
Drop the first one. That's okay.
Well, you fumbled it. You caught it.
On the jugs machine after practice today. That's all right. A little bit extra time. No big deal.
Did you say the jugs machine?
You know it.
Where is that? Which room is that in right now?
It's not at my house.
Oh.
I think the jugs machine's otherwise occupied at your house. Newborn, Well, not newborn anymore, but
he's off of the whole now. Unfortunately. Busier.
The Gibby's gonna be just tee-hee-hee-ing tomorrow when
he'll just be grinning and shaking.
Now he's laughing even harder because we're mocking him. All right, number 2, Blister, coming to you. David Wilson. The headline is David Wilson taken to the hospital for tests on his neck. So this is today, Blister, which is Tuesday, the 29th. Giants running back David Wilson will undergo a battery of tests on his neck at the hospital for special surgery after suffering what Coach Tom Coughlin called a burner. The Giants will be extra careful with Wilson, who had neck surgery in January. So, Blister, buy or sell? Wilson will not be on your fantasy football team this year.
I guess I'm selling for now. I'm meaning
Nice.
that
See, Slim, he learned. That's good.
he
Hey,
will
I know.
be on my team.
all right.
Well, I paid attention for once. But I do have him on 2 teams already. This is a little concerning, but I am sure they are being extra careful here with Wilson. I mean, the guy come off a pretty serious injury, so hopefully it is nothing. I'm sure we'll find out in the next few days how serious it is and how much time he'll miss. So I just think that he is a pretty talented back, and I mean, last year he was probably I think last year in auctions he was going for like $25 to $30 if I remember correctly, and he's a hot name in fantasy, and it didn't work out because of the injury. But if you can get him back this year, he's a guy that you can pick up really late for $2 or $3, and typically that's what I've been getting for around that. And I mean, he's a guy at that point in the draft where he's explosive. It could really be a huge player for you. So it's a nice gamble late in your draft like that to pick him up. But I'm gonna keep cross my fingers that he's going to be okay. And like I said, I've drafted him a couple times. I'll keep an eye out, and if he turns out that he's not okay, then it's time to start working the waiver wire.
So I think he's also a pretty good guy on those drafting goes. I'm going to give a couple MFL 10s a whirl here, and I think he's the type of guy you pick up real late because he has that pretty high ceiling, and he if he does come out and play a handful of games or whatever, and I mean takes a few to the house or whatever the case may be, he could score you pretty good points. So just saying. Oh, sure. All right, going on to number 3 news item. The headline is Slim. Josh Gordon arguing secondhand smoke as a defense. So in his appeal, his appeal hearing on Friday, Browns receiver Josh Gordon will argue that he failed the drug test because of secondhand smoke. Apparently, he was 1 nanogram over the threshold that the NFL allows. So he's saying it's secondhand smoke. Just on, I guess, on a little bit of legal note too, Josh Gordon hired the same attorney as the Seahawks corner Richard Sherman, who got Sherman's 4-game suspension reduced to nothing. And Josh Gordon, in case you're living under a rock, is facing a potential 1-year suspension if he's not successful on Friday. So, Slim. Buy or sell, Josh Gordon will be snowboarding for the Team Canada snowboarding team this winter. And that's for Canadians who are laughing at, I can't even say the guy's last name. Is it Ross Rubliati?
Ross Rigliotti?
Yeah, that guy.
Yep.
I knew a guy who used to board with him, by the way, in Whistler, and said he was the biggest pothead on the hill. Anyways, just saying. But apparently, yeah, he got his gold medal taken away, but it was secondhand smoke. Well, let's just continue. Anyways, buy or sell, Slim, that Josh Gordon will now be moving up in your tiers with the idea that he may actually get his suspension reduced here.
Well, I'll sell it because I'm not moving him until it does get reduced. He's stuck at the bottom right now until, like I said, until I know that he's actually going to get on the field. And then obviously, if it gets lifted, he goes, back to where he should be in the top tier of wide receivers. But yeah, like I said, until then, I'm just gonna avoid it. I mean, the part of me wants to say, if he played in Major League Baseball, I thought I read somewhere today, this wouldn't even be an issue. It's partly because of the NFL's stupid, very, very strict drug policy. And many other sports, he wouldn't even have failed a drug test for this amount that's in his system. But, part of me, and I know Blister will be sticking me the finger probably. How stupid can a guy be? I almost want to see hopefully it'll smarten him up and get him back on track. Like, I feel like if he gets off, he's just going to do something stupid again because he got off. There was no repercussion for it. And
he'll be hanging out with Justin Blackmon later.
Maybe he didn't do anything wrong. He pulled a Bill Clinton. I didn't inhale. I mean, set you up for a soundbite there, Bucks. But
thank you.
I don't know. I mean, it just seems so fishy for him, and whatever. Like I said, I'm waiting to see what happens for him. And man, I hope he gets it figured out because we all know he's got all the talent in the world, but he seems to have a bag of rocks upstairs. So we'll see.
Man,
time will tell.
I hope he plays because if he does, my football team my fishbowl team is going to have the sickest receiving core. Brandon Marshall, Jordy Nelson, Josh Gordon, Julian Edelman, Golden Tate, Kenny Stills. Holy man. Steve Smith, Marlon Brown, Jerry Wright. Wicked.
Nice.
Don't even need a
Nice,
running
and
back
that's
in that
snake
league.
draft. We're not even snake experts.
That's right. I think I'm crushing the fishbowl if Jordan plays.
Yes.
It'd be so sweet. Anyways.
All right, so Blister, our last news item is coming to you. The headline reads, Kendall Hunter out for the season with an ACL tear. So San Francisco running back Kendall Hunter will likely miss the entire 2014 season with an ACL tear sustained at practice on Friday. His knee buckled after catching a pass. So his absence could mean more playing time for 49ers second-round draft pick Carlos Hyde, which I hope. Blister, buy or sell. It is now time to target Carlos Hyde because he will be the top rookie running back this year now that Hunter's out.
Well, that's a tough one. I don't think he'll be the top. I definitely would target him. I just don't know if he'll be the top
Sorry,
running
I guess
back
it was a
this year.
two-pointer. I'm sorry. I'm still learning at this, too. It's been a long time.
Buy, it's time to target him. I'd sell, he'll be the top rookie running back. Just the only reason I'd sell that is because Frank Gore is there, and everyone's written Frank Gore off for the last 2 or 3 years, but Frank Gore just keeps on ticking like the
Not
Energizer
Slim.
Bunny.
Slim hasn't written him off.
Yes, I
know.
have.
Hasn't he?
I've been on that. I've been
Didn't
driving that.
you just have this big rant about he's not dead, he didn't die, he didn't.
Well, that was on Twitter finally because everybody was, wow, Carlos Hyde's the man. Well, like Blister said, he's still there. He's still getting the majority of the touches. It doesn't. I'm not saying he's going to do tons with them, but all of a sudden they're not just going to give somebody, hey, here's 15 touches a game, even though Frank Gore's on the team. That doesn't make any sense.
That's right. I think there's other backs out there like Terrence West or Jeremy Hill or Bishop Sankey that potentially could get a lot more touches right out of the gate. But I think Carlos Hyde would be, I mean, anybody that does own him already has got to be happy with this because now he's definitely not going to have to share the rock with so many people. Well, Michael James had a separated shoulder. Marcus Lattimore, he's coming off the knee injury still. So really it's just down to, it's kind of, in my mind, it's down to Gore and Hyde. And going into the draft, like the NFL draft, Carlos Hyde was looked at as maybe one of the best running backs ready to go. And when he went to San Fran, I was like, oh, they got so many guys already. But now things are looking rosy. Only a couple of months later, it's starting to look pretty good for him. So I definitely want to try to get him on my roster. Crap.
It's been a while since Blister fell off the chair.
I need a new chair, new computer. This is terrible.
You thought Gibby was laughing earlier.
I can't believe this happens every year
I
still.
almost had a heart attack. Oh, this stupid thing doesn't stick in there.
Hey,
Very
buy
good.
some draft kits, guys, and we'll get Blister a new chair.
God.
If that doesn't
My
get you to
age,
buy
I
a
might,
draft
I might need to get a defibrillator down here, too. I almost had a heart attack.
Well, he's still agile, though. It's still quick, the big man. He got right back up.
Been working on the core a lot lately. T25.
Oh, Sean T. You shout out to Sean T.
Thanks a lot,
So,
you
hey,
bugger.
so 2-pointer, number 1C. Listen, I follow the headlines. Don't be giving me that dynasty trade. It was an okay offer, but I would follow the headlines. I know Hunter is out, so don't try to pull this Carlos Hyde trade on me. It was a nice offer, but anyways. And number 2.
I traded for Kendall Hunter the day before from him.
Yeah, I know.
Worst ever. Worst
And
time.
Slim, number 2, just as a 49ers guy, does this kind of worry you, I guess, a little bit about Frank Gore? Like, do you think the Niners now are going to, force feed him maybe a little bit because they know they have a rookie in behind him and it's not Kendall Hunter who's going to be able to spell him a little bit? Like, does that worry you as far as Frank Gore, who we thought maybe they'd cut some carries off so that he'd be better down the stretch? Like, does that worry you at all as a Niners guy or as, I guess, if you were a Frank Gore owner?
No, you know what? I think no matter what was going to happen, I think Gore was going to get a fair amount of touches the first, say, quarter of the season until the Niners knew exactly what they had behind him. I mean,
Right.
Hunter, yeah, he was a known commodity to them, but still, he tore his Achilles before. He was kind of just coming back from that, still having a full season back from that. So, they want to see what Hyde had anyway. If Lattimore does play, I don't think he was going to get tons and tons of carries. But at the same time, I felt like if Lattimore came back, he would get more touches than Hyde. I think he kind of looks more like an every down back right now, and who knows, in preseason Hyde could totally flip that around.
Yeah.
To me, Hyde projects more as kind of like the big short yardage back that they kind of lost with Booby Dixon. And, he got maybe, 3-4 carries a game.
I thought you were going to say Tom Rathman there for a second. I'm sorry.
Ooh, no, don't even sleep. Yes.
Anyway,
I love Rathman. But anyway, so I think that Gore, yes, early on, will probably get some more touches than maybe most of us expect because he will be fresh. You're right. And then as the season progresses, they kind of taper him off a little bit. And, hopefully Hyde can emerge and, show that he's capable of taking some of the load off of Gore, and maybe he does get 10 carries a game. I still think that Gore gets 15 and Hyde gets somewhere between, 5 to 8. And I think LaMichael James, when he comes back, will still be factored in a little bit. So he gets a handful of carries every game too, maybe in some passing situations or in some kind of two running back formations, or they line him up as a receiver, whatever. He'll still be on the field. So yeah, I still think Gore gets his, and Hyde, it's going to have his work cut out to cut into his. It's going to take an injury, I think, to really get big carries.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, in Dynasty, I own them both right now, and so that was more just a greedy question on my part. Anyways. And
well, I think, hey, next year, I mean, Gore has no contract after this year. So, hey, it could be Hyde's show then, and he might be the guy getting 20 touches a game. I don't know.
Right. All right. Good stuff. So I guess one more news item that we haven't talked about yet, even though it hasn't happened in the last day or two. But it's interesting, I guess, as far as average auction value and those types of things. So I'll put it out to both of you, but Blister, we'll go to you first. Gronk's been participating, or well, I guess he's been given the go-ahead to participate fully in training camp. So what do you think about his AAV? So Blister, buy or sell Gronk's worth a 40 smash heading into this season?
Well, I guess I'll buy that. I mean, I'd have a hard time.
Not saying that you would spend it, but like,
yeah, I'd have a hard time probably spending it. The last two auctions I did, one of my strategies, we'll get to that later, was getting a top 3 tight end, and on top wide receiver too. But anyways, I was getting Gronk for about $24-$25. So I just think that now he's going to climb definitely up close to that 40 range, somewhere between 35 and 40. And, I know a lot of people will be concerned with the injury history, and for good reason, too. I don't know, I'd love to have him on my team, but I just can't imagine myself, I've never paid that much for a tight end. And we look at all the leagues we were in last year, and we just talked about this before we went on the air. Nobody won our league that had Jimmy Graham. Unlike last year, Jimmy Graham was the big expensive tight end, and he will be this year. He's going for $40-$45. So I think it's a lot to pay for a tight end, but I mean, a couple of years ago when Gronk stayed healthy, I mean, he was Calvin Johnson, and I think Gronk in terms of fantasy scoring he was right up there as one of the top. He was beating out most of the receivers in fantasy scoring, So it's definitely, it's definitely an avenue to take, and it's not there's nothing wrong with it. It's just typically a strategy that I've never tried. So I don't know. I don't think I'll be doing it again this year. It's too bad to see that, at this point on, that he's not too bad to see this, but too bad that his value is going to skyrocket so high that he'll drive him right out of my price range.
Right. Okay. Okay. I don't know what that copy paste was, Slim, but we'll just run it from there. Anyways, so Slim, are you buying or selling that Gronk is worth $40 this year?
Yeah, I am. If Graham goes for 43, then Gronk I think is worth 40 because and maybe I'm in the minority, I think that Gronk could easily challenge Graham to be the top tight end, as dominant as Jimmy Graham is. I think Gronk is such a red zone threat that he should, if he plays all 16 games, score more touchdowns than Jimmy Graham, believe it or not. And I think, yeah, he can score right on pace with him. So if Graham's going for 40, 43, 45, then Gronk should too.
So just a question, I guess, Blister, because you talked twice again. Well, I don't know what I was going to say. Anyways, the question I was going to say is, if Gronk is healthy and ready to roll, what does it do as far as your tiering of a guy like Julian Edelman?
You know what? I was reading a bit about that, what I wrote in a couple articles or something, a month ago, and I said Julian Edelman caught 105 catches last year. I can't see that changing much this year. Gronk does change that. Gronk is going to take a lot more targets away from him, potentially. He's going to be an end zone target for Tom Brady. So really, I think you have to temper your expectations for Edelman if Gronk is healthy. I think he's still going to be one of, Brady's favorite targets, but I definitely think, he could be under 90 catches this year. He could be 80, 85 even, if he can stay healthy on the field. So I definitely think that, you're going to see a decrease in production from Edelman because of a healthy Gronk.
Okay. So those are the things you have to consider, right? So we see Gronkowski is healthy and he's back at it, but what does that do to everybody else on the roster as well? Knocks everyone else down a peg. So just things to always be paying attention to. So that's why we do the fantasy news buy or sell. All right. So that's right. So let's keep on moving. Slim, why don't we roll in next? Why don't you talk a little bit about the fan draft that you participated in? It's our second fan and listener draft. In early July, I drafted with early July, end of June. Lose track now already. Anyways, a few weeks ago, I did a draft with fans and listeners, and it was a lot of fun. It was interesting to be able to interact with our fans and listeners in a different way in the draft room there. So it'll be interesting to play against them too as we go through the season. So. League number 2 was drafted this weekend. Slim, talk to us about things other than spaghetti and anniversaries.
Well, like I said, it was interesting. Totally different nomination-wise than a lot of, actually all the drafts that I've been in so far this year.
What do you mean?
And mock drafts. Well, I was kind of talking to Blister after. All the big names didn't really come out at the beginning. It was a lot of the mid-tier guys came out.
Oh, yeah.
And, it made me change my strategy. I mean, you know me, I went in with a few different budgets, and right. I actually had to scrap one of them very quickly. And I was going to kind of go with my old fail-safe that I've been using a lot this year in drafts, was let's try getting a bunch of mid-tier running backs and then building around that. Well, a lot of these mid-tier running backs went early, and they were going for maybe just slightly more than I was going to pay, and I kept saying, oh, well, you know what, I'll wait. There's lots still out there, and whatever. I mean, I've got money budgeted. If I need to buy a big name, I can do that. And they kept coming and coming and coming, and then it was time. I kind of realized, well, now I'm going to have to, kind of switch it and go with I need some big name running backs. So I ended up buying guys that I thought were values still. Like I didn't go all the way to the top and get McCoy and that, because those guys still went for $50 and over that, which I have a hard time paying for running back. I ended up with Doug Martin and DeMarco Murray at $32 for Murray and $30 for Martin. I thought that was decent. Yeah, I thought, like I said, I still tried to get values. So then I had tons of money for receivers, and I thought, I'm gonna get a couple big names. That's what I want to do. And then when the receivers started coming off the board, the big name guys were going for over 50 and the high 40s and stuff. And I kept saying, well, you know what, I'll get Julio Jones for 41. And AJ Green was I think he was maybe the second guy off the board. He went for $41. And I thought, oh, this is perfect. I'll be able to get a couple guys here for less than 40. This is what's going to happen. Well, then I think it set in. People had all this money, and the big name guys went for tons. You guys there?
Yeah. Still listening.
Sorry.
I don't know where Blister went.
That's okay.
What's this camera? No.
So it was just really
Okay.
strange the order that things went. I mean, I got Stafford early. Again, quarterbacks went for cheaper than Aaron Rodgers went for $24. And like I said, I got Stafford for 9, and I was more or less just bidding. I thought he was going to go for 5, and I thought I can't let somebody get him for that, and I wasn't bummed out I got him for 9. I was happy with that, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was crazy. Tom Brady, I think, went for $3 later in the draft, which I was like, oh. Now I was kind of sick that I spent 9 on Stafford.
Yeah.
But
Well, 9 for Stafford, though. I mean,
well, a lot of drafts he goes for around 20. So
top
I thought
5,
again,
right?
that was a good value.
Yeah.
So anyway, as this played out, I ended up getting some of these really low running backs. I got Pierre Thomas for 13 as my flex running back, and I kept waiting on these receivers. They kept going for higher than I wanted to pay. So at one point, I remember actually I got a list here. There was Brandon Marshall, Jordy Nelson, Cobb, Jeffrey, and Pierre Garçon. And I said, you know what? I want for sure one of these guys. I wanted Jordy Nelson. Well, Jordy Nelson ended up going for like $45, which I'm not paying that. I bowed out when he got like over 40 because I kept saying, okay, there'll be more. And they kept going for over 40. And eventually my list came down to Pierre Garçon and Michael Crabtree. Those are really the only 2 receivers left. So I spent $31 on Garçon, which is probably more than he's worth, but I had to do it, and $26 on Crabtree, which again, maybe a little more than he's worth, but I had to do it. And I'm not sad about taking either of those guys. I think they're both great in a PPR league as a 1 and 2. I mean, I'd like to have had somebody better, and again, now there was bare bones left for wide receiver 3, and I ended up filling a bunch of bench spots with running backs. So I typically like to have better wide receiver depth. I don't feel too good about it, actually. Hakeem Nicks, I got him for $6. Dwayne Bowe for 9. Again, that was at the very end of the draft. I had some money, so I said I have to get him because I need somebody who could potentially be a serviceable wide receiver 3. And I took Miles Austin for $1 with my last pick. So I really only ended up with 5 wide receivers in this whole draft, which I was not happy about.
And you spent about $70. I'm just ballparking that off of my head on receivers.
31, 57, another 15. Yeah, about $70. Yep, which I think is pretty low. I mean, but I mean, we have a short bench in this league. I have So my running backs are Martin for 30, Murray 32, Pierre Thomas 13, Ridley for 10, Danny Woodhead for 11, D'Angelo Williams for 8, and then C.J. Anderson in Denver I got for $2. So I got lots of running backs. I like the running backs. I don't dislike them, but I mean, I would have liked to have gotten another wide receiver.
So that's interesting, hey? Just that the nominations and the way that went just changed the whole outlook of the draft. And I mean, you had to bounce around your strategies in order to get there, right?
Yeah, and I mean, hey, I loved it. And one of the things I said too was I wanted to take players. I can look at this team and there's really maybe one player. I got Ertz in a couple. I think I got Murray in one. But there's really no other players that I own in any other teams. I think I own D'Angelo in one. But the meat and potatoes, I don't own Doug Martin in any. I don't own Crabtree. I don't own Garçon. I don't own Stafford. I wanted to diversify a little bit, quite frankly, too, than some of the other pools, just to spread it around a little bit and to try something else out. I thought, you know what? I can't win this as far as the prize money goes. Let's treat it more or less like a competitive, really competitive mock and see what happens a little bit. And I'm not unhappy with my team. I just wish that I had maybe a little better depth at the wide receiver position. But whatever. And yeah, it totally changed the way things went. If you were sitting there looking for studs, especially at wide receiver, because they didn't get nominated till late. Then you found yourself with tons of money. There was a couple times where I had tons of money, and I wasn't ready to spend it because none of the guys that I wanted were being nominated yet, or even any of the tiers of guys that I wanted were being nominated. So it was definitely interesting, and I couldn't believe how just about everybody in the draft was doing the same strategy. It seemed like all of a sudden Bishop Sankey comes out, or Fred Jackson comes out in the second round or something like that.
Yeah.
Joik Bell here, whereas the top 8 running backs are still on the board. It's just it was weird, but it was fun. It was very fun.
So how does that, just out of curiosity, change your nomination strategy then? Do you just kind of fall in suit with everybody else and start looking at guys in lower tiers to nominate, or do you still stick with your guns and say Jimmy Graham, if you're at the 1-4 or whatever?
Well, I still tried to stick with guys that I would try to flush money out, because what I saw was not a lot of money being spent because there was lots of middle tier guys.
And were those middle tier guys were they being like overvalued because they were coming out early, or were they being undervalued?
I think I wouldn't say many were really overvalued. I think some were undervalued, just because it was early, and I really think that a lot of people weren't prepared to,
little gun shy.
I mean, I knew the prices for what I wanted, but at the same time, I didn't want to end up spending a whole bunch of money on a bunch of mid-tier guys because they were going for a couple bucks less than they should have, and then I get hosed on, Julio Jones, who I wanted, or AJ Green, who I wanted. When in hindsight, maybe I should have, or I should have been more aggressive early on the studs, is what I was thinking. Fill up my spots there instead of waiting on them, trying to get the very best price that I could. Because I think what happened was a lot of us waited too long, and then there was a whole bunch of people with money, so then we were bidding against each other for, like, Antonio Brown was a guy I wanted, and so did 3 other guys, and he ended up going for probably, I can't find it right here, but mid-40s, probably closer to $50, where that doesn't barely ever happen. But we all had money, and we all needed receivers, and we were bidding with each other like crazy. So yeah, it was different. It was a very realistic. I would compare it a lot to what our live draft is like that we do later on this summer, where different things are happening. You'll never know who's going to be nominated. It's not like doing a mock draft online right now.
Well, I just think it's interesting to hear the change in the nomination, I guess, timing, and then how that affects like the whole draft, right? And again, just doing what we say all the time, right, Blister? It's that idea of you got to have a few different ideas. You got to be willing to jump ship and go somewhere else, and you got to have all your ducks in a row and have your sheets ready, and like Slim said, know what you want to pay for certain guys, but then also being willing to, adjust your strategy as the nominations change. I mean, it sounds interesting. Would you do the same thing, Blister? Like, if all the mid-tier guys were coming out in the first little bit, would you kind of fall in with them, or would you still go with the big dudes?
I like to get guys out there that are going to cost more money. And I think I saw when we did a mock on Friday night, Antonio Brown, not that he's not a mid-tier guy. I still think he's a top 10 wide receiver. But he got nominated. I think he was the first wide receiver nominated. I think he went for $38 maybe.
Something like that, yeah.
Which isn't terrible. But I've got him in a lot of other mocks or real drafts for around 30. So I think because he came out early when everyone had a lot of money to spend, it costs a lot more money to get those guys. So, I think some of the strategy when you nominate like these, maybe an RB2 type of player early on before all the RB1 studs are gone, is you're hoping that guys are going to think, well, I'm not going to spend too much on him because I want to make sure I save my money for LeSean McCoy. So I think guys are probably maybe thinking that they might be able to get him for a deal. And, in some cases that could work. It's you got to try different things. You got to when you don't know your group, like when Slim had the fan draft, he doesn't know those guys, and they're drafting from all over the different parts of the world. So, you throw it out there and give it a shot. So, not a bad strategy for sure. You got to try different things.
I just want to throw this in. You guys keep going after, but I just found Antonio Brown. I was a little off. He went for $36, and I actually remember it now. I thought, yeah, you know what? I got $40 to spend, but I'll get somebody much cheaper than that. And I kind of chickened out and just thought, you can have them. Because, like Blister said, you can typically get them for less than that, like closer to 30. And then I'm not going to overspend now. Lots of guys left. But
I got them for 30 on Monday, yesterday in a draft. So.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I just and I heard just from early nomination strategies, and I know, Blister, you've talked to it before. I was listening to a competitor's pod while I was using the weed eater up at the lake, and he was adamant about doing the kickers and DSTs early. I won't name the podcast; just it has to do with beer.
Two of
and
them.
Yeah. And you know what? And he's very highly regarded in the industry as far as being an auction guy. And when you hear him on other pods too, like he's the one that they talk to about auctions. And he's still that guy that is, I'm going to throw out the Seattle DST first because if someone pays an extra $1, then I've weeded out $1. Thoughts on that strategy early? Did anyone do that one, Slim?
There was actually a little bit of that. I think probably in the third-ish round, some defenses started coming out there, and I know even I started doing, because there were so many mid-tier guys being kicked out. I thought, you know what, I should just nominate a defense too. Yeah. Well, people were doing it, and I thought, you know what, I might as well too, just to get it filled. Then I don't have to worry about it, and I can still get a decent one because no one was bidding more than $1 either. No one was going over the top. Seattle obviously went for a few, but if you nominated, say, Denver's defense, you got them for $1. No one was doing it. Same with kickers. So I think people noticed that, and that they thought, oh well, I can get a good defense for $1. I'm going to do it. Where in a lot of mocks, sometimes if you were to say nominate Cincinnati, somebody might try and steal them for $2. You know what I mean? But I just thought, there's lots out there. I'm not going to do it. And I kind of went with Blister. I thought, I got to get some money out. I'm going to keep nominating bigger named guys, or not necessarily maybe the biggest names, but just guys that I know I don't want. I'm going to throw them out there and try and just siphon some cash out. That's all I could do.
And I think that's the smartest thing you can do, because if people have money in their pocket, the whole thing, like not just in an auction, but just in real life, like in an auction, that, wow, I got to spend an extra $1. I don't even have a problem anymore spending an extra $1 on a kicker or a defense if I want that person, and I can get them on my bench. I mean, there's not very many. I've been in a lot of auctions, a lot of mocks, and not very often do I spend $200 even, unless all of a sudden I got $8 left at the end, or 10, and I bid $10 on a wide receiver 9 or whatever the hell it is. It's a waste of money just to say I spent all my money, really. So when you go back, you always have a couple bucks. So what if you spent it? I want this guy spending $65 or $70 on LaShawn McCoy and Jamal Charles. It's like you go on a road trip, right? You go on a road trip, you got whatever, spending money on the golf trip for cash at the beginning of the trip. You're thinking, I got lots of cash. I'm gonna eat freaking steak tonight, and I'm having an appy and some dessert, and you're living large. And then all of a sudden, by the end of the trip, maybe I'll just get a water and set a order of wings here. That should be good. I'm good. But if you switched it around, at the beginning, like when you don't have the money, when the money's gone, you start changing everything up, and you start thinking different. And I only got this much money left. I better hold on to it. I can get somebody else. But when you have it, you're going to spend it. So get the money spent. Get guys out there that are going to go higher, that you're not interested in. Like I was talking earlier, a guy like DeMarco Murray. I'm not really in love with him, but you guys are, and there's nothing wrong with him. It's just the injury history worries me. But I know somebody's going to spend $45 or more on him. And that's great, because that's a guy I really don't want on my team, and $45 or more is going to be gone out of somebody's pocket. So that's good news for me.
So I just think that's just one of the reasons why. I mean, it's been amazing the last couple of weeks. The number of emails, Facebooks, tweets, whatever it is, from auction fans that are giving us, the thumbs up about being all auction. I mean, the the guy that last year said, just messaged us and said that he did his first auction last year and he got taken to the cleaners, and now he knows that he's going to be way better prepared because of it, because that's what we do. We do auction, and so many times, you're listening to another pod or you're on another website and you're looking for the auction information, and it's just a little bit there. It's a little bit here, a little bit there. I mean, I won't lie to you. I bought Football Diehards magazine to bring up the lake, so when I'm in the outhouse, I have some heavy reading to do. There's 2 pages on auction. 2. And it's just really like, this is what an auction is. This is how you nominate. This is what, and that's it, And not just to be shameless and spammy and whatever else, but like our draft kit right now today, I updated it for the August 1, and we have a little bit of work to do for the free update, is 121 pages of auction. That's it, just auction. It's not like anything else. And, I think there's guys in the industry that'll be out there talking about how, they're this and they're that, but that's, I think, a great point. Like, we're all 3 of us right across the board talking about, let's flush that money out. And Blister, you're 100% right. I don't know how many times, every single draft I'm in, I've got cash left over at the end. And you're like, if I would have, if I should have, right? And I'm working on some mocks to change that, Slim. So you keep that to yourself.
So you're going to have that fixed in the come our big draft. Jeez.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know what, though? It might be just a little fainting, right? A little bob and weave, and you guys all think you come in and come in and bang, I'll come over the top with it.
But I was going to add to, like, if you're prepared, and what I've learned, even just what I saw from this mock that we did, or not mock, geez, I keep calling it a mock, but this fan draft that we did, no offense to any of you guys out there. Actually, you know what, shots fired. It was like a mock. It was like drafting with a bunch of bots. I'm just
anyway, Slim for MVP.
That's all right. We said there'll be lots of trash going on. I told them I got thick
actually
skin.
There was wicked pre-draft trash. Who was the one of the listeners was
Falcone.
Yeah, he was
tweeting his gums. Yeah, he was on Twitter. Good though. That's fine.
Anyway, sorry, go.
But I was going to say, if you want to see what the guys in your draft are made of when you sit down, do something or not crazy, but start nominating a bunch of mid-tier guys. You'll see who's prepared and who's not. If guys, if you're getting steals there because nobody wants to bid because maybe they have no idea what they would pay for Steven Jackson, because they're not thinking, hey, in the first hour he's even going to be nominated, right, then great, you're ahead of them. Or if you've got maybe a bunch of guys thinking, oh, geez, you nominated him for a reason, well, I'm going to bid. And all of a sudden everybody's getting overbid, you think, okay, perfect, I got these guys too, because they don't know their prices. They don't know, they have a clear vision in their head of what they want their team to look like. They don't know the guys that they want on their team, so you can tell kind of when you're ahead of the curve and when you're maybe behind the curve, and when you got to or switch up kind of what you're doing. So it's a good way. Beckett always talks about zigging when others are zagging. Well, maybe throw a zig in there, or give them a quick little punch in the lips and see how everybody responds, and what are they going to do?
Well, and in our big draft too, there are a couple of guys, if you were to throw Steven Jackson in the first hour, they'd be hard on the computer going, like they'd be searching, is he injured, is he this, like they'd be looking quick, right?
And that's a good point of live drafts. You can see, you can see people scramble. Who's digging into their papers, flipping stuff, and like you said, you can see the panic in people's, and that's a perfect thing.
You want the guy to flip the magazine. That's what you want, right?
Yeah.
Which would be awesome. Wow. But I mean, and that's one of the reasons why. I'm the quote unquote producer of the podcast. I run the website. I do whatever. I don't bring a computer to the draft. I mean, I have my phone there just in case, even though cell service out in the boondocks can be a little bit suspect now, but off the U.S. towers and whatever it is. But I come in with four pieces of paper, and it's my spreadsheets on one and budgeting stuff on the other, and that's it. And I learned from playing and coaching football, we would always say, know thy charts, and know if you're on special teams, you get your butt out there and who you're backing up and who you're this and who you're that, and do your work beforehand. And I come in and I trust my sheets, I trust my tiers, I trust my values, and I trust the 4 or 5 different schemes that I'm willing to run as far as budget goes. And I'm not Googling to see if Steven Jackson's banged up in the preseason.
What does Roto World have to say right now?
Yeah, I know that, and I'm definitely not going to look at the magazine that was written in April from the ESPN's Fantasy Summit when they all get together and go through their draft orders and whatever it is in April before the magazine comes out in June. Anyways, that's why you mock and that's why you research, and if you got to stay up after the kids go to bed or get up before the wife gets up in the morning or whatever it is, you got to get your, I said shit poop together, right? So, anyways, I don't even know where I am now. It's good stuff though, because that's what it is. That's real life auction banter right there. So, what were we going to talk about next, guys?
I don't know.
I don't know either. We were going to talk about the mock.
The mock, but do we need to anymore?
I don't know if we need to. I think we've talked enough about strategy, and we talked a little bit to it
so.
there. I think we're. I didn't even keep track of time. We got to be at least an hour. That's what we do.
Basically, we are.
Sure, for sure we are. So as we move into this, guys, it's going to be August on the weekend, which means that fantasy season is in full swing. We're seeing it right now on our podcast downloads, on our website views, on the draft kit sales. It's starting to ramp up here. So I'm getting fired up for August to come around the corner here and get into the real drafts. We've done some already, but we all know that the end of August, comes up pretty quick, and all of a sudden it's going to be the end of August. We're going to be sitting around eating, brisket this year, Slim? What did you guys cook for me?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe we'll do a brisket. We'll smoke a brisket and maybe do some beef ribs,
And then we'll start the annual tradition of Blister standing in front of the fire wearing the belt.
Oof, there's some good fuel for it this year, boys.
I don't know. That fire last year was incredible. So, but those are the things, right? And we're excited about that coming up. And we've been getting tweets and emails from guys who are telling us about their auction draft experiences, and it's last year's champ picks the location and they travel and play golf during the day and draft at night and do those types of things, or they're all down in Vegas, or it's a road trip to wherever because it's the big friends and family draft that they're in. So make sure you're sharing all that stuff with us, because the auction community is small but it's tight, and we're starting to see it more and more about the passion, just like Slim was talking about with the fan draft, the passion that is the fantasy auction community. So I'm loving it. Guys, anything else you want to add before we sign this sucker off?
I got nothing.
Nothing. Hey, Blister, you're heading up to 502, so we won't see you for a while?
Yeah, we'll be back Friday, and then Char goes on a trip to Duluth for a few days, so should be good.
So he's still in the 807, but he's going up to 502. That made it sound like we're in Southern California or something. And Slim, what do you got coming up? You got some mocks? I'm looking at some FL10s coming up.
Yeah, I'll be doing some mocks. I got to write one last article, I think, for a good strategy article or budget article for the draft kits for this last update. And yeah, that's about it.
All right, so the update is out August 1st. I worked many hours on it today, formatting it and getting everything looking pretty on there. We're at 121 pages, and that's without Slim adding an article into that. All auction, all the time. The internet's only all auction draft kit. Head on over to the website, thefantasyfootballauction.com/draft kit. I just put on a little slideshow there that has, I think, 6 different pages of the draft kit, so you can see all the different areas that we're covering as far as all auction goes. Follow us on Twitter at Fantasy Auction. If you're listening to us on iTunes, give us a rating and give us a comment. It helps us move up the rankings so that more and more people can get involved in auction. Same thing if you're listening on Stitcher. And head on over to the Facebook page, facebook.com/Fantasy Football Auctioneer. Give us a like there so you can follow all of our news. So, guys, I don't know. I'll see you online. I'm sure tomorrow. I'm heading up the lake. Got family in town. And for the rest of you, Slim Whitman would say, remember the day when we found out that he passed and we just used this thing and there was like I actually felt sad about it. Remember that?
Yeah.
I do.
At school.
Yeah, it was like all of a sudden, did you know Slim Whitman just died? And he's like the dude that sings like our sign off. And
He's our man.
he has a sign off because it was Slim, and I was looking for somebody that sang a song who something to do with Slim. And now the Springtime in the Rockies is just our signature out. By the way, as our signature out, by the way, Dave doesn't listen all the way to the end because he didn't chirp back after I told Dave to shut up about the glasses. So I'm just saying that out loud right now. Dave, you don't listen to the end. We know what kind of fan you are.
Yeah, you know, if Vince is listening, Mr. Auction, he likes to listen too on trips there. And I like our ECL team back. So I think we're going to be doing very well. It's nice
yeah,
little squad.
The ECL, the chat room's been fired up here the last
It has been,
little
but
bit.
basketball talk, I thought I
Yeah,
had it
but you
wrong.
see though, I threw out a curling just to
I know.
see, and nothing came back from that, right? I said
No,
Google that
just
sheet.
Cricket.
Yeah, anyways, all right, boys, we'll see you sometime soon, and for everyone else, we'll see you when it's springtime in the Rockies.